Chris Stuckman's debut feature film, Shelby Oaks, finally hits theaters this weekend. Last summer, Neon acquired the film and they doubled the budget, and now the positive reviews are piling in. I used to watch Chris Stuckman a lot back in middle school, but I never really followed the production of this film. It has had one of the most successful Kickstarters of all time. I went into this film completely blind. Like, other than knowing who Chris Stuckman is, of course, Shelby Oaks feels like the best subgenres of horror mixed together. I won't bring up Stuckman's YouTube career much in this video, but I do think his time as a critic really has influenced this movie, because you can really see bits and pieces of what works and what doesn't work about different subgenres within horror, and them being pulled together in this film in only the best possible ways. That is not to say this film is perfect. I will get into my negatives later, but easily the best aspect of this film is the fact that it is able to bend the subgenres within horror. It's mainly a mix of found footage and fantastical horror. The found footage is really the opening. It really brings you into this world. And then the middle of the film takes more of a psychological route, which I really loved. I really did think at a certain point we were going to get to the religious horror route, because again, I assumed the film was going to take yet another step, but it kind of leads into like the demonic horror rather than just religion itself, which I really like. I think the fantastical element really just blindsided me. All I knew going in was that poster and the title Shelby Oaks. I thought maybe it was going to be someone's just like lost in a forest and it's a found footage movie. And when you put the pieces of production together, it's a YouTuber making his first film. It's a Kickstarter based film. There's not much they have to work with. This film looks expensive as hell. Of course, they had that doubled budget by Neon, which I'll talk about later in this video. But even on a base story level, this is attempting so much on a demonic fantasy, even creature level to an extent. It is very intriguing to see how this film evolves. Once the story starts to pick up and we start moving from location to location and the mystery aspect gets into a role, the film really did draw me in. But I do think on a writing level, the characters and overall themes and ideas just aren't super strong. I think it's primarily because the film is trying to tackle so much, it just kind of ends up leaving the nuance of character work on the back burner. The performances, though, are good enough for me to kind of not necessarily look past the poor character writing, but more so it just makes up for it in the moment when you're intrigued in the film. On a writing level, I think the character nuances are the main problem, because on a story level, I really do like the direction it heads in. The characters at times do feel hollow. It's primarily the relationship between this big sister that's looking for her little sister that went missing. And on a surface level, I think the fantastical elements, demonic elements, I won't talk about it too much in case you haven't seen the marketing, but all of that does work really well, and it evolves in an interesting way. But I think since it's evolving upon so many different things, at times it can feel very hollow. It's intriguing because it's scary and it's eerie, and they leave you with just enough information out of the picture for you to be interested but not feel underwhelmed. Through the course of the film, I was never once thinking that we were lacking in character depth or the story wasn't interesting enough. I was completely just engrossed in this mystery. But at the very end of the film, I mean, I think the final shot is absolutely amazing, but I kind of sat there and I was like, man, this was a little bit underwhelming. I wish we had a little bit more to explore, because the elements of fantastical horror were just so well executed in the final act. Granted, I hadn't watched any of the trailers going in. I didn't even know what visual style Stuckman was gonna go for in this film, and from all I knew, it was a quote-unquote found footage movie. I thought maybe this whole thing would be on tape. Genuinely, this film looks so expensive, and it does meet the bar of what Neon is putting out in the horror space. On a craft level, I think the first act is the most interesting, just because it's so much mixed media, and for me, it made me really hesitant about the rest of the movie because there wasn't really a set vibe of what was going on. The first and then like second and third acts feel completely different, but in a really cool way. Circling back to what I was talking about the quality of this film, there was a Shelby Oaks backers update after Neon had picked up the film at Fantasia Film Festival, where Chris Stuckman talked about the changes Neon allowed.
We've actually been able to go back into the movie and enhance it in very small, incremental ways. They asked for a draft of my original script, and they read it, and they were like, hey, there's some things in here that aren't in the movie. And they were like, well, what if you had a little bit more of those two things?
With the $1.5 million they originally had, the film looked really, really great. But then you see, okay, they got a little bit more money for CGI or this brand new set that they got to visit. There's all of these little things that bring the movie together really well, but on a baseline, the film looked and was crafted really, really well, and I'm surprised they were able to do that with that amount of money. I only bring this up because I really do think the film works at its best when it's just flowing, when we're going from location to location, when this mystery is actually unfolding. I think at times people might think it moves too fast, but I just like that it kept it from being stagnant and it always made the mystery work. I'm really, really interested to see what Stuckman does next. In a horror sense, yeah, but mostly in an overall like supernatural sense. Again, I think I was just blindsided by that aspect of this film, but I really, really love the way that it was all executed, and I do think Stuckman has a huge future in, I guess, the space of horror and just supernatural films in general. Overall, I'm going to give Shelby Oaks a 4 out of 5. If you still want to check out this film, let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.